Morning, everyone, and thank you very much to all of you for joining us. We would like to begin by extending a very warm welcome to Premier Kinew from Manitoba. It's a pleasure to have you here in Ontario. As you will soon hear, today marks yet another very important partnership on the path to resilience as Ontario and Manitoba unite under a common cause. As Canada's sovereignty continues to be challenged, our government remains unwavering in our commitment to protect the people of our province. Under the leadership of Premier Ford, we have taken unprecedented actions towards safeguarding Ontario's future, introducing new measures geared at building a stronger, more resilient and self-reliant economy, one that can weather the storm of global change and protect our workers and industries from external pressures. To build a stronger Ontario, we must also look to build a stronger Canada, a Canada where we recognize each other's mutual strengths. Our government is proud to lead this effort and proud to partner with provinces and territories who share this same vision. Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Manitoba have answered that call. Today's announcement adds new momentum and a renewed sense of purpose to our national effort. Because by working together, province to province, we unlock the full potential of our economy and of our people. Please join in welcoming Premier Ford to the podium.
Thanks, right on. Appreciate it. Thank you, buddy. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Minister Fedeli for that introduction and for all the work he's doing to protect and grow Ontario. I know our great PA, Will Boma, my parliamentary assistant, is here today, and he has about 50 different areas that he focuses on. So, Will, thank you for all your work. And I'd especially like to thank Manitoba's #1 champion, Premier Kinew, for being here today. You know, Premier Kinew isn't just a champion for Manitoba, he's a champion for Canada and a great partner for Ontario as we work to protect our provinces and our country. And I know the day I met him, I fell in love with the guy. Honestly, he's just similar to me. He doesn't really care about the political stripes. I always say I give him some therapy because he's talking like a conservative, but people blame me for talking like a liberal, so we're in the same boat kind of, buddy. Anyways, I'll give you counseling after this. As you all know, the last month of our government introduced the Protect Ontario Through Free Trade Within Canada Act. In fact, it was the first piece of legislation we introduced following the election in February. The reason for this is simple. Supporting real free trade within Canada is one of the best ways to grow our economy, support our workers, unify our country, and protect Ontario. Yet right now, interprovincial trade barriers are costing our national economy up to $200 billion every year and increasing the cost of everyday goods and services by up to nearly 15%. In fact, like President Trump's tariffs, they divide us and hold back our economy. We can no longer afford to let this happen. With President Trump's tariffs taking direct aim at Canada, we need to do everything in our power to unleash our economy and create new opportunities for workers and businesses. We need to cut the red tape and make Ontario and Canada the most competitive place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business. That's why we introduced our legislation to tear down internal trade barriers and make it easier for workers from other provinces to come and work right here in Ontario. And I'm proud to say that last month, Ontario became the first province in Canada to unconditionally remove all of our exceptions under the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. And we're doing even more. Last month, Premier Houston, I got to give Premier Houston a big shout out. I know he's traveling right now, stirring up business for Nova Scotia, but he's helping lead the way. And as well as Premier Holt from New Brunswick signed agreements here in Toronto to support free trade between their provinces and Ontario. And today, Premier Kinew and I will be signing our own agreement to unlock free trade between Manitoba and Ontario. Think of this. These are big numbers. Our two provinces already do approximately $19.5 billion of interprovincial trade every single year. But we can do better. As neighbors and partners within Canada, Ontario and Manitoba can lead the way by creating new opportunities for goods, services, and workers to move freely between our provinces. And that's what today's agreement will do to help all of us. I'm looking forward to working with Premier Kinew and all my fellow premiers to unlock free trade within Canada so we can build a stronger, more resilient economy that can stand up to tariffs and anything else that may come our way. I want to thank you and may God bless the people of Ontario. And I'll hand it over to my champ, Premier Kinew. Over to you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Premier Ford. I got to say, when I go to the hockey rinks and the farmers markets in Manitoba, people are talking about the job that you're doing with Team Canada. And people are so proud and happy to see the rallying around the flag effect right now. And so I'm very glad to be here to represent the people of Manitoba and to put pen to paper on the next stage of working together to build up our great country. We're knocking down trade barriers and we're building up Team Canada. Ontario, Manitoba, and everybody coming to the table. It's a great thing to see. We know that our country has been threatened, and it's been inspiring to see Canadians respond to these risks presented to our economy by saying, you know what, we want to take advantage of this opportunity and build Canada up to be even stronger, to have even more jobs, to have even more money being put into the wallets and the bank accounts of people right across this great land. And so I think we got a real window right now to do the big nation-building projects that have just been ideas for the past number of years. Now we can get shovels in the ground. And when we talk about putting people to work, the people with the hard hats and steel toes, the engineers and professionals, being able to work right across Canada, that is the opportunity that we're talking about here today. Of course, Premier Ford was talking about the $20 billion that flows back and forth across Manitoba and Ontario's borders. But where we live, it's about culture, it's about people, it's about a shared Canadian identity. Winnipeggers who vacation in Lake of the Woods, Ontario. I myself was born in Kenora before, of course, growing up in Manitoba. And so the ties that bind are so strong between Manitoba and Ontario. And when we look ahead to the future and we talk about building up this country's economy, I want Canadians to know that this is really about trust. When a Manitoban looks on TV and they see Premier Ford fighting the good fight on our behalf, it's because there's trust between our jurisdictions. And when an Ontarian looks to the Winnipeg Jets and sees us bringing home the President's Trophy, there's an element of trust there. And so the great nation-building project ahead of us is bringing the Stanley Cup home to Canada. And while we may not always agree on which team is the right one to fulfill that task, I think there's no dispute around the fact that we're all in this thing together. And when we're talking about health and safety, we're talking about making sure that people have the qualifications to get the job done right, there's that element of trust there too. We trust that somebody who gets a Red Seal in Ontario, somebody who gets a professional designation in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, we trust that they're going to be able to do a great job if they come to Manitoba. And we can guarantee that you can trust us as well, too. That when we send our tradespeople, we send our engineers, we send our best to go work on a project here in Ontario, they're going to be able to get the job done right. Canadians elected us to do big things together. And so I'm very proud to be here with Premier Ford to put pen to paper on a deal to make our country stronger and to make sure Manitoba and Ontario are going to succeed for generations into the future. Miigwech, merci. Thank you very much.
Okay. Are we signing or are we taking the questions first?
Stuff.
Okay.
All right.
We're signing. Okay.
Use the Sharpie?
Yeah, Sharpie.
Pen?
Here, you like the sharp.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Excellent.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
That's a big step.
Now you're going to experience great media from our great province of Ontario. Fasten your seatbelt. Let's rock and roll, guys.
All right, we'll now take questions from the media. Media present can line up behind me and ask their questions through the microphone. As a friendly reminder, the format is one question, one follow-up. Please state your name and your outlet before your question.
Bonjour, Jérémy Bergeron de Radio-Canada. Even if I like to ask you some questions, Premier Ford, you don't speak French, so we'll ask them to Premier Kinew.
Yes.
Monsieur Kinew, peut-être nous dire en quoi c'est significatif cette entente qu'on vient signer aujourd'hui. C'est pas demain, par contre, qu'on lève toutes les barrières. Ça va prendre du temps.
Oui, bien, avec ce document, nous, en tant que la province du Manitoba, avancera un projet de loi pour faire la même chose que le premier ministre de l'Ontario a déjà fait ici avec leur projet de loi. Et puis, en travaillant ensemble, nous serons capables de construire, bâtir notre pays et aussi de créer plus d'emplois.
Peut-être question de suivi pour vous aussi, Monsieur Kinew. Répondez dans les deux langues parce que mes collègues de CBC sont curieux d'avoir cette réponse-là aussi. Il y a plusieurs feux de forêt en ce moment au Manitoba. Il y a des centaines de personnes qui sont déplacées de leur maison, de leur chalet. Est-ce que la province pourrait peut-être demander de l'aide, du renfort à d'autres provinces en ce moment?
Oui.
Et qu'est-ce que vous dites aux gens qui sont inquiets?
Bien, premièrement, c'est une situation très grave. Et puis, nous sommes toujours en train d'appuyer tous ceux qui sont en besoin de l'aide de la province. Et puis, nous remercions tous nos travailleurs et travailleuses qui sont en train de lutter contre ces feux. En même temps, ça, c'est la première chose que j'ai parlé avec le premier ministre de l'Ontario au sujet d'aujourd'hui. C'est-à-dire, merci à Doug Ford pour l'aide qu'ils ont déjà rendue chez nous. Des avions. L'année dernière, il était là avec des pompiers. Puis aussi, la Colombie-Britannique, nous avons aidé. Alors, le Manitoba, c'est toujours là, prêt pour aider dans des situations d'urgence dans les autres provinces. Maintenant, nous sommes dans une situation où nous demandons d'aide des autres provinces. Et je suis très content que les autres provinces, comme Ontario, nous avons déjà aidé. Alors, il y sera des autres avis partagés avec le public plus tard cet après-midi dans le Manitoba, avec beaucoup de détails. Mais au niveau des premiers ministres, nous sommes en train de travailler ensemble pour aider les pompiers et tous ceux qui ont besoin d'aide dans le Manitoba et puis le nord-ouest d'Ontario. There's a very serious firefighting situation, wildfire situation in Manitoba right now. My thoughts are with all the folks affected, and my sincere thanks go out to those on the front lines who are risking their lives, people in the Manitoba Wildfire Service, firefighters from other jurisdictions, local firefighters, the Office of the Fire Commissioner. When you see people heading towards danger at a time when property, life, livelihoods are put at risk, we got to say thanks. We got to say thanks in each and every day to the first responders and people on the front lines. This topic is the first thing that I had a chance to speak to Premier Ford about today, to say thank you for the water bomber that helped to respond already in eastern Manitoba to the very serious fire situation there. It's been great to have that partnership with Premier Ford where Ontario steps up to help us. Manitoba is always willing to help other provinces in their times of need, so it's great that we can turn to a partner like Ontario and also British Columbia, who's provided firefighters. So we're going to have a public notice later today with more detailed updates on the local situation, but I just want to provide that message of assurance to Manitobans that we're working at the level of premiers to ensure that those resources, much like the trade that we want to see happen across borders, it's also the emergency services and the firefighting supports that go across to have a pan-Canadian approach to help people during their time of need.
That's great. Well, we'll always be there for Manitobans and any other province. We'll send resources, whatever you need, Premier Kinew. We'll be there for you.
Thank you.
I'd learn French. Matter of fact, you can teach me French one day, but they'll accuse me of not wanting my job and going for another job if I learn French. But that's my goal. I'm going to learn French. That's not my goal to go to the other thing, to learn French. Just to clarify that. Because you guys would never twist my words, would you, Colin? Don't worry, I'm going to fix your little red wagon tonight when we get together. It's going to be fun. People are wondering at home, what are we talking about? Yeah.
Bonjour, Sandra Padovani pour TFO. I have a question for Premier Kinew in French.
Yes,
Sorry.
absolutely. There you go, buddy.
Set that one up,
Oh,
eh?
I know. That's good.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Donc, j'ai une question pour vous. Où en êtes-vous dans votre démarche de faire du Manitoba, et je vous cite, une province véritablement bilingue?
Oui. Alors, pour nous, en tant que province bilingue, il y a beaucoup de francophones chez nous. La francophonie est très forte. Le Manitoba a rejoint le reste du Canada en tant qu'une province à cause des Métis, à cause des Métis qui parlaient la langue française. Alors pour nous, c'est toujours un but d'être une province véritablement bilingue. Alors j'espère d'une des choses, un des projets qu'on pourrait travailler ensemble avec Nouveau-Brunswick, avec l'Ontario, avec le Québec, et de leur demander pour d'aide pour avancer notre statut d'être une province qui participe dans l'organisme international de la francophonie, et puis aussi d'apprendre ce qu'ils ont fait avec le système d'éducation, la livraison des services dans la langue française, dans le système de santé, pour avancer ce projet. So yeah, one of the great things that, just to build off what Premier Ford was saying, one of the great things I hope we can work on together is to learn from other provinces like Ontario and New Brunswick about French language services so that Manitoba can continue moving forward to be a truly bilingual province.
Merci beaucoup.
Ouais.
Et où est-ce que vous en êtes de votre candidature d'adhésion à l'OIF?
De l'OIF? Oui.
Internationale de la francophonie.
Oui, la prochaine étape sera d'avoir de l'appui des autres provinces et puis les autres juridictions, comme le Québec, l'Ontario, Nouveau-Brunswick, pour rejoindre l'OIF dans une capacité plus formelle.
Merci beaucoup.
Oui, merci à toi.
Premier Ford, I'll give you this one in English.
Okay.
Yesterday, in an interview with Vashi Kapelos, Prime Minister Carney said he's open to making changes at the federal level on projects to make sure that they move forward, and that could include on Bill C-69. Can you talk about what that would mean for nation building and national unity?
Well, it just can't be, thank you for the question, first of all, but it just can't be business as usual. We have to move forward. We got elected on a strong mandate, and we have to compete against, not just around the world, but compete against President Trump and his tariffs. And the only way we can do that is if we get rid of C-69. It doesn't allow all of us across the country to move forward in a rapid speed. And I really appreciate what Prime Minister Carney mentioned yesterday. I personally feel he's going to move quick, but we all have to move quick, all the premiers, to get our economy going, make sure we give certainty to everyone across the country, not just our individual provinces and territories. But I thought it was a real positive interview yesterday, at least what I heard. I'll pass it over to Wab if you want to give your thoughts on some of the...
Yeah, we're working together as premiers to knock down interprovincial trade barriers and to grow our economy that way. And I know we all have those big nation-building projects in mind that we want to see get done. We all want a clean, safe, healthy environment for the future generations of Canada. We all love that as Canadians. I just think it's important for the Prime Minister to respond to the current moment and ensure that these big, job-creating economic projects can move forward in a good way. Thanks.
And I'm looking just maybe for your general impressions of the new cabinet that Mr. Carney unveiled yesterday, including Tim Hodgson in Energy and Natural Resources.
Yeah, no, Tim's a super bright individual. He's going to work well with our Minister Stephen Lecce. They're both go-getters, and they want to get big projects done, and couldn't ask for two better people to work on those projects. And, you know, I don't know everyone in his cabinet. I look forward to meeting some of them. I know my MPP, he got elected, and he's Secretary of State now. Boy, or something, Secretary of State. It's amazing. You go down and meet Trump one time, and we're having Secretaries of States now. But we look forward to working with the government. And again, I've always taken this mode. I don't care what political stripe they come from. We're working with them. We're going to work collaboratively, just like all the premiers work collaboratively together from all different political stripes.
Premier Ford, Mark McAllister from City News.
Hi, Mark.
This is only the third MOU that you have signed with other provinces at this point, and the goal, obviously, is to have them signed across the board.
Yes.
Are you not disappointed that you've only reached this point?
Well, considering, not at all, considering the federal government kind of falls under their jurisdiction as well as ours, and they want to do it by July the 1st, I think we're going to have quite a few signed. We're looking forward to signing with PEI, looking forward to signing with Saskatchewan and Alberta, and we're working. I talked to Francois Legault just through text messaging. So I think we're all going to come on board, and I think we're moving fairly quick, actually. So before July the 1st, hopefully, we can get all the territories and provinces on board. And it'd be a shame if they weren't, because, you know, they're going to miss the train, and it's not going to benefit their communities. So I'd highly recommend everyone hop on board. It's really going to benefit every jurisdiction from coast to coast to coast in our country.
Tomorrow is obviously a big day for your government with
Yes.
the release of the budgets. Just looking to see if there's any more nuggets you can provide us with, perhaps some actual tax cuts for people in relief as a result of these tariffs.
Yeah, my finance minister would absolutely shoot me if I divulged anything. So it's going to be a good budget. It's going to be about building our province, creating more jobs, more opportunities, making ourselves more competitive, putting money back into people's pockets, supporting businesses through some of these tough times with these tariffs. I'm also confident, and I'm not speaking for anyone, just myself, I'm very confident as you see President Trump start rolling out all these deals and agreements and his comments this morning. It seems like he's being friendly to everyone now. So hopefully we're going to, I know I kind of laugh there too, but I feel we're going to get a deal hopefully in the next month. And I don't know, but I'm pretty confident. You can't just ignore your largest customer, largest trading partner, but I'm confident they're going to work something out.
Hi, Niju Damalise from the Globe and Mail. The MOU signed today is quite specific about reaching a direct-to-consumer sales deal by the end of June. That it's not as specific in the MOUs with New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. I'm wondering if you expect the path forward on alcohol sales between provinces to be through bilateral deals, or whether there's hope for there to be some sort of national framework so that alcohol sales are liberalized across the country.
Well, right now it'll be bilateral, but wouldn't it be great if we could go right across the country? You know, it's a shame that people in BC can't ship a bottle of wine, or we can't ship it over to them. And there's people that like our wine. I know Quebecers love Ontario Niagara wines. So we need to do it right across the country, in my opinion. But right now it looks like it's going to be bilateral.
As a follow-up, on June 2nd, premiers will be meeting with the Prime Minister in Saskatoon.
Yes.
What are you both hoping to see from the Prime Minister and, I guess, your colleagues in terms of specifically this issue of interprovincial trade?
Well, before I pass it over to Premier Kinew, our goal is to talk about the large national infrastructure projects that the Prime Minister has asked us for a list. All of us have submitted the list. Also looking forward to making sure that the federal government leads the way when it comes to interprovincial trade. We aren't waiting. We're going to continue signing deals. I'm confident we'll have a deal with Saskatchewan when we're out there, and hopefully Premier Smith will sign on. We'll get as many people to sign on as possible because this is just going to benefit our country as a whole and making ourselves stronger economically. That's our goal, is to create an opportunity. You know, I always say any crisis, there's an opportunity, and this is a massive opportunity for the entire country to build large national infrastructure projects. Pass it over to you.
Yeah, we're here to show that we're serious. When it comes to interprovincial trade, we're willing to knock down these barriers. Manitoba, at the start of this process, was already one of the leaders with the fewest barriers, and so we're willing to continue that good work and want to put out that warm and hearty handshake to all the other premiers to join us and do this work together. And we're serious when it comes to the big national unity, nation-building projects as well too. We brought back 500 megs of power that we are exporting to the U.S. during this moment to be able to redevote that towards maybe a transmission line to Nunavut, maybe to electrify a trade corridor to Saskatchewan, Alberta, to talk to Ontario about how do we do this work together. There's a lot of talk around the country in terms of what does a recent election mean. I think if we sit around and talk politics, there's always going to be disagreement. But if we get to work and do the actual job of putting shovels into ground and building some of these trade corridors, putting people to work, that's how we bring every region of the country together. And so at that meeting in June, I'm hoping that we'll leave the politics aside and we'll get down towards rolling up our sleeves and putting Canadians to work. Yeah.
Hi, Premier.
I gotta give Premier Kinew, you know, the odd time. We, like 99.9% of the time, all the premiers, you know, get along. We may have a disagreement once in a while, but, you know, Premier Kinew shows strong leadership amongst the premiers. He jumps in the middle and everyone get along, you know, go to your neutral corner and let's get moving. So, no, he's a peacemaker, this guy. I love him. He is. He's just an amazing person.
Hi, Alison Jones with the
Hi,
Canadian
Alison.
Press. I'm going to try a general budget question for you. Obviously, you would have started the budget process months ago before
Yes.
these tariffs came into place. How much have the tariffs changed the budget situation for you? How much of an impact are we going to see versus, you know, the budget that we maybe would have seen a few months ago?
Yeah, well, we have to look at it through a different lens now, since these tariffs have been put on us. And you know what I can say is, you have two options in a budget. You start cutting and slashing, which I've never believed. In tougher times, you go out there, you put money into infrastructure, keep building the hospitals that we're doing, and the highways and the bridges and the roads and the schools and long-term care homes, and really building the infrastructure. We can always balance a year or two, but what scares me are governments that go in there and start slashing and burning. We've never done that. We never will. We'll get through it. Just the way I can describe it is like the pandemic. You have to put money into the economy to keep things going. And when I say into the economy, into people's pockets, into businesses, that's what stimulates the economy, that stimulates more jobs.
Hey, thanks. And I have a question for Premier Kinew on behalf of a colleague in Manitoba. Property tax bills are landing in people's mailboxes this week. In many cases, education taxes have gone up. People are also paying more under your new credit system than under the previous rebate system. Given that, why did the government include inserts in the mail that say the government is lowering costs for families?
We are lowering costs, so the preamble to your question is incorrect. So sorry that your colleague put you in that spot there. $1,500 across-the-board tax credit is putting the vast majority of Manitobans in a better situation when it comes to the dollars and cents in your pocket, and 100% of Manitobans are better off by having a properly funded education system. Good news for Manitobans opening their bills this month, which are being delivered to them by the municipalities and the school divisions. That provincial tax credit's going up to $1,600 per person next year.
Good for you.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a good thing.
Hey, Premier, Rob Ferguson, Toronto
Rob.
Star. This may be more for Vic, but you're welcome to field it if you want. Vic looks a little left out back there. Vic, I'm wondering, or Premier, did you have any advance warning from Honda about what was coming yesterday? Even if they hadn't said anything, did either of you get any vibes that maybe things were not going to go well?
Well, when it came to the tariffs, we're always a little nervous, but Honda, and I'll pass it over to Vic in a second here, Honda has assured us that they're going to continue building vehicles here in Ontario. They're going to continue expanding. But I just have to make something clear. Until any of the deals we made with the EV sector, there's not a penny that has flowed yet to Honda. So we haven't spent any money until they start producing products, and that goes for no matter if it's Honda or Volkswagen or Stellantis and Ford and so on and so forth. So we're going to make sure we create that environment to encourage the corporate office to say, we build the best vehicles, which we do. We build the best vehicles, the highest quality, at the lowest cost. And I give all the credit to our hardworking auto workers there, but I'll pass it over to you, Vic.
Thank you, Premier, and thank you, Rob. A couple of the facts adding on to the Premier's comments. 4,200 men and women show up in Alliston every day to build the CRV and the Civic. The Civic is Canada's #1 selling automobile. These 4,200 jobs are solid. They're not being affected by the pause that Honda is taking. We have landed $46 billion worth of auto and EV, saving the 100,000 auto workers that were in Ontario when we got elected, saving their jobs by expanding into EV, the only sector that those multinationals were moving and expanding into. So we are confident that Honda will, absolutely confident, and have been told by the chairman of Honda that this project will continue. It needs a pause right now as EV sales are not as robust. They're still increasing every year, but they're not as robust as they'd like to see. Certainly the uncertainty created in the U.S. has caused a lot of problems, but I was overseas this week, and at all of the meetings that we held, including breakfast in Germany yesterday, was Ontario is this beacon of hope. That Ontario, of all the places in the world, as all these companies are pausing around the world, there's a lot of capital being built up, that capital needs somewhere to go, and our work is to convince that capital to come here to Ontario, and they all recognize this, and they tell us this. We're this beacon of hope that is stable, reliable, dependable, almost boring in a good way, that you can count on Ontario as being that rock-solid partner for you. And so that, again, as the Premier said, no dollars have been forwarded. We pay and we make our investments based on buildings that are built and people that are hired.
When you were in Germany, were you discussing Volkswagen and their battery plant south of London, and what's the latest on that? Because I don't think they're actually building yet, are they? Aren't they just still doing site prep? So
the last trip to Germany a few weeks ago was specifically to meet with Volkswagen, where they have assured us of the production proceeding in St. Thomas. We met with the brand new CFO and CEO. Both have now been located into the St. Thomas facility. It's underway. There's a tremendous amount. You can imagine the size of this facility being so large. There's a tremendous amount of infrastructure that's being built, a lot of sewer, a lot of water, a lot of land clearing. So there's still a tremendous amount of investment being made there to get it ready for them to build their facility as they have promised.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Vic. I don't think people realize or appreciate what role Vic plays. Like, it's exhausting. I spent 20 years of my life on a plane every day. It's exhausting. But I was just traveling within the U.S. Vic is representing our province, and to a certain degree, what's good for Ontario is good for the country, so certain parts of the country as well. But he's on this plane, going to Germany, and then hopping on another plane, heading out to Asia. Like, I don't know, boy, he's just amazing. So thank you, Vic, for everything that you do. And just an ask to all the premiers. Similar to when I go out there and I'm promoting pipelines, and I know Premier Kinew is as well, saying, hey, let's get pipelines, let's get them all over the market. I always say, as long as the steel obviously comes from Manitoba, they have a steel plant, we have steel plants, so let's use the steel from both jurisdictions. But my ask is, buy Canadian. Basically buy Ontario vehicles when possible, as I've asked all our municipalities do the same thing. I know sometimes it's impossible to buy a certain vehicle that we don't make. I get it. But there's a lot of vehicles we make here that you can buy for the province, municipalities, and the federal government.
Morning, Premier. Richard Southern with 680 News Radio.
Richard.
There's been a push on by the opposition here, but one that's also backed by groups like the Canadian Cancer Society, and that's to do what Premier Houston recently did in his province and eliminate hospital parking fees for those, going for treatment or for frontline healthcare workers. I know you're all about affordability measures. I'm wondering, would you consider that one?
Well, I've come up with this a few times, Richard, and I got to be honest, a little kickback from some of the hospitals. That's a big money generator, but it really bothers me that, nurses, and they're phenomenal. They have to go there and they have to pay for their parking. which is unfortunate. But I'll never give up on that aspect. And Halifax is a little over 1 million people versus 16 million. There's a big difference. But I asked the hospitals. I did. They gave me a little kickback. Now, the docs, they get obviously a lot more than nurses. But as the frontline healthcare workers, PSWs, nurses, healthcare workers, that, I feel sorry for. So we got to keep working on that, come up with a different plan. But I've been all over this for months, actually.
On another note, you announced yesterday the elimination of tolls on the provincially owned portion of the 407. Yes. A couple of months ago, you said you were open to maybe buying back the full 407 from private hands and that you would talk to the ownership about it. Have you had that discussion, and where does that stand, Premier? Well,
the public service kind of goes back and forth, or Ministry of Transportation. But, without throwing numbers, we should have never sold the 407, first of all. And it's in the tens of billions of dollars. But they're going to be at capacity in 10 years. And I'd never rule out acquiring it. But we also have to build capacity, and that's why we're doing that feasibility study to build that tunnel. And we will build it. I remember, 6 years ago, when we came out with the transit plan. And if I could roll back the time and say, 6 years ago, we're going to do the largest transit expansion in North America. We're going to build 5 lines, and we're going to build the Hazel-McCallion line and other lines. We're going to spend over $70 billion. The opposition would say, oh, that's back of a napkin. Well, so much for back of a napkin. We're actually doing it, getting it done. And I believe you have to be a visionary. You can't think about 5 or 10 years. You have to think about 50 years down the road. And we're going to get this tunnel built one way or another, because that creates jobs, thousands and thousands of jobs. And as the Toronto Board of Trade came out, it's costing us tens of billions of dollars, the traffic. And I see it. I always tell the story. I drive by at midnight, and 401's jammed, absolutely jammed. And I'm thinking, where's everyone going at midnight? So we're going to get this tunnel built one way or another.
Hi, Premier. It's Jessica from the Trillium. I'd like to ask you for some more clarity for your plans for special economic zones. The legislation as it's written would give your cabinet pretty broad powers. Do you have any plans to amend the law to put any restrictions on how those powers can be used by yours or a future government, such as potentially not using that power to waive any labor law requirements, for instance?
Yeah, great question. Before I hand it over to my champion, economic development, we want to get our province moving. It can't be business as usual and do the same thing and expect a different result. We have to change things, but in changing things, you can't change it without working collaboratively with all sorts of sectors and groups and people. And we want everyone to come on board and move forward with it, because if we just stand still, we're dead in the water. We want to move forward and get things moving. So I'll pass it over to Vic.
Well, first of all, Jessica, I thought it was irresponsible of the opposition to go down a path of that. I think it's a lot of fear-mongering. Think about this. We're in a war right now. We've said this many times at this podium. We are in an economic war with the U.S. As you heard me earlier, we've attracted $46 billion worth of EV plants. President Trump wants every one of those plants in the States. He wants all of our jobs to move to the States. We are in a war right now. When we travel around and visit all of these potential customers, and we have a lot of prospects that we're working with, they continue to tell us, we need this reliability, we need this assuredness that it's going to happen here in Ontario, that what we promise can actually happen. And that's why these special economic zones, especially with the Ring of Fire as our first one, will help pave the way for these projects to go ahead. It will help reduce red tape. It will help speed up the projects. We just simply cannot have projects that take 10 or 15 years to come to fruition, and that's why our special economic zones will be put in place to assist that.
So the opposition parties have also been sort of banging the drum on this idea that the special economic zones are going to set your government up for the next Greenbelt scandal. They're sure that your government will use these powers to give favors to friends and political donors. What is your response to those comments?
Yeah, they'd prefer that none of our economic development continue. Look, this is all about paving the way for these companies to come to Ontario. We've landed about $70 billion in business since Premier Ford and our government was elected. It's because that we have things like 70,000 STEM grads every single year. We have clean, green energy. We have fully serviced land. We have all of the things that these companies are looking for. And we've got to get through the permitting and all of the things that are holding us back. That's what these special economic zones will do.
Can I jump in there real quick? So just to maybe offer a nationwide perspective, you know, our government in Manitoba, we're very proud of the fact we were able to bring a new mine to the shovels in the ground stage within 18 months of taking office. And the company is headquartered here in Toronto. So this is something that's going to benefit the whole country, really, when you think about it. This is a $1 billion project, Alamos Gold. And I was happy to be there for the ceremonial sod turning. And not only is that literally a gold mine, when we talk about, you know, it's going to be a gold mine, some economic opportunity, it brings the road construction, it brings the hydro hookups, it brings schooling and healthcare services back to a region that was maybe on the decline prior to this big investment. So there's a playbook, I think, that we understand in order to get things done. It involves working with Indigenous communities, working with the private sector. But I think the attitude of premiers and governments across the country today is deal-making. We showed up to this mining company's office here in Toronto. We said, what have we got to do to get this thing done? And then we go back to Manitoba Hydro and say, we got to do these hookups a lot more quickly so that we can get the shovels in the ground. We say, okay, what have we got to do on the regulatory and on the environmental reviews so we can do mining in the right way, but get the shovels in the ground more quickly. So I think right now we have this window of opportunity. You know, Minister Fedeli talked about we're in a war. A war economy can be a boom economy. We just have to play our cards right. We want to come out on the right side of the relationship with the Trump administration and make sure that our closest neighbor is always going to be a good ally. But if we can use this window of opportunity to bring some economic boom back to Canada, then I think that's something we'd all be proud of.
Yeah. That's amazing. I didn't know it was 18 months. In Ontario, it seems like 15, well, it is 15 years. So we're going to get right into that realm of 18 months or sooner. And we'll sit down and learn how quickly Manitoba can get it done. And good for you, Premier Kinew.
This will be the last question.
Hey, Premier, just on the list of the nation-building projects you've given to the federal government, we know the Ring of Fire will most likely be greenlit, but for the rest of them, are you anticipating a negotiation, or is there no conversation from the federal government on the list of projects they'll approve?
Well, thanks, Colin, for that question. I wouldn't call it negotiation. I'd call it conversation. And building a new nuclear facility would be one of them that we want to start moving on. Obviously, the tunnel and the Ring of Fire are the kind of the key areas that we want to focus on to bring prosperity to Ontario. But it'll be a good conversation. I look forward to sitting down with the Prime Minister and all the premiers on June the 2nd. It'll be a great meeting. But it seems like everyone across the country is like gung-ho. You know, it's terrible that President Trump declared an economic war against us. But I agree with Premier Kinew. There's massive opportunities, and everyone's in the same headspace right now. Move, quicker, faster. Let's get it done because we're at war, economic war, mind you. So we'll get there, and we're going to move really, really quick.
And just in another piece of public infrastructure, bike lanes, your favorite topic. I know you've already kind of decided on the 3 bike lanes in Toronto. Are there any other bike lanes in the city of Toronto that your government is considering removing?
Not right now. I'm not against bike lanes. I just want to get these things moving, get them going, and just move forward. Build all the bike lanes you want, just not on main arterial roads. Put them on the side roads like my brother Rob did. I still, you know, I always like saying this. Rob built more bike lanes than David Miller, but we just put them on the secondary roads. That's the right thing to do, and let's start moving on it and get traffic moving as well. But anyways, I just want to thank my friend. Oh, sorry, Jamie.
Jets, any wagers, trash talk?
Well, no, I'd never trash talk with my buddy here. Mind you, he lost the bet on the Grey Cup. He gave me the 6-pack of beer, even though I'm saving it. Yeah, Manitoba beer. I don't drink, so I saved it. I put it up on my mantle. But as long as a Canadian team wins, I prefer the Leafs. Premier Kinew prefers the Jets, but it's such a great feeling when you're watching the game and you have thousands of people outside, no matter if it's Winnipeg or if it's Toronto or Edmonton. We just need a Canadian team in there. And I give my promise to Premier Kinew. For any reason, the Leafs get knocked out. I don't believe that's going to happen. They're going to the Stanley Cup. But if that happens, I'll be over to Winnipeg in the arena with my good pal here with a Jets jersey on, going, go Jets, go. And boy, wouldn't that be a thing if we both met in the Stanley Cup? My goodness. He'd owe me another 6-pack of beer. That's it. But anyways, in saying that, you want to say something? You're going to say something?
No, I just want to say hockey brings people together.
Absolutely.
Canadian teams going through the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's what it's all about. So on the political side, we'll build up the economy, and hopefully the players on the ice will bring the cup home this year.
Absolutely. I'm very grateful for Premier Kinew and everyone coming today. I can't wait to see all my good friends tonight, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So God bless the people of Ontario. God bless the people of Manitoba and Canada. We're moving. So you take care. All the best.
That concludes our press conference. Thank you.